Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Time to Draw with Mr. Shaw. Today, we're going to be drawing one of my favorite things in the whole wide world. Those of you who are scholars see them all over my classroom, on my floor, on my water bottle. Today, we're going to learn how to draw a unicorn. So, as always, you're going to need a pencil, pen, marker, or crayon, something to draw with, and something to draw on a piece of paper. Remember, if you're starting to run low on paper in the house, you can use the other sides of things. You can use pieces of paper that maybe you've already used, maybe the back of a receipt from the store. Anything you have lying around the house should be fine. So when we draw a unicorn today, we're going to start out with some basic shapes, and then we're going to get things a little bit more complicated, not complicated, but we'll add the details as we go along. If you get stuck, if I'm going a little too fast for you, feel free to pause the video, rewind it, watch it again if you need to. But let's go ahead and get started. And we're going to start out with just some circles. Now, a unicorn, or a horse even, is a pretty big animal, has kind of an oval-shaped body, kind of a rectangle or cone-shaped head. But I'm actually going to start with 3 circles. I'm going to start with a circle pretty close to the top of my paper. I'm going to draw it in pretty lightly to start with, and that's going to be my unicorn's head. Coming out from that circle, I'm going to draw what I call a soft rectangle shape. I don't want it to have hard edges like a rectangle. If you want to start with a rectangle kind of coming out from that circle, but then just curve the edges of it a little bit so that it looks like a soft fur-covered unicorn. You don't want it to look like a robot unless you're drawing a robot unicorn, in which case use straight sides and straight edges. But I think this is a pretty good shape for my unicorn's head. It looks kind of like a horse head. Now, if you have an eraser or something to erase with, that line, that edge of the circle where the rectangle and circle touch, I'm going to erase that. And as the rectangle comes towards the bottom of the head, I'm just going to give it a little curved line here for the jaw of my unicorn. So I'm going to give her a couple of details on her face. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a curved line that looks like a letter U. Now that's actually my unicorn's eye, and I want her eyes to be closed. So this is kind of like her eyelids shut. And then I'm going to draw 1, 2, 3, 4 little curved lines for eyelashes. Now above her eye, to make sure people read that as an eye so they can recognize that's an eye, I'm going to draw a little eyebrow up here, just another little curved line. And then down near her nose, we're going to draw another curved line for her nostril. Horses and unicorns need to breathe. And then, starting about halfway down her nose, the end of her face here, I'm going to start a line, and I'm going to curve it up to just under where her eye is, and give it a little curve like that. So now my unicorn's got a nice smile here. So I'm going to darken this line on the top of the head, and I'm going to go ahead and add that triangle shape coming off her forehead. That can be as long or as short as you'd like. And what I like to do to make it look like a unicorn horn is draw some curved lines going all the way up. Almost like the bone of that horn's being twisted all the way up that cone. It gives it kind of a shape that looks more rounded, like a cone or like the horn of a unicorn, and less flat like a triangle. Now after I've done this, I'm going to very lightly draw in 2, I guess we'll call them football-shaped ears. I'm going to draw a curved line coming up like this, and then another curved line coming down like this. It almost looks like an oval with 2 pointy ends. So I'm going to draw one ear here, and then I'm going to copy, or I'm going to mimic that shape on the inside and color it in a little bit. Now, I'm using just a pencil today, so I'm going to color that in black. If you want to color your unicorn later with crayons or markers or colored pencils, you could color the inside of that a darker color like blue or pink or purple, whatever color you choose. I'm just going to color it in black because I'm using a pencil. Now her other ear, I want to be a little higher up and a little bit off to the side. And I'm going to copy that same shape, but I'm going to keep that ear light for now because I do eventually want to add some hair, that mane of my unicorn coming down. I'm not going to do that right now though. So once I have my unicorn's head pretty much blocked in, I'm going to draw 2 curved lines. One of them is going to kind of copy the curve of that circle, and then the other one I'm going to start just under the chin here. Or I'm sorry, not the chin, the jaw right here. So I have 2 curved lines coming down, and that's obviously her neck. Now once you bring the neck down about as far as you think it should go, want you to go ahead and draw a nice big circle and do it pretty lightly. That's going to be kind of the chest area and where the front legs of our unicorn are going to come out from. So here's my first circle, and then just a little bit behind that, about a half of that circle's width across, or I'm sorry, to the back, I'm going to draw another circle exactly that same size, or as close to it as I can. If you need to kind of use your pencil to see where that circle would start here, and then maybe where the bottom of it would start here. And sometimes that's a good way to measure and make things look like they're the same size. So I have two big circles. Looks kind of strange now, but if you draw a curved line coming from where the neck touches that first circle to the top of the second circle, and then we're going to draw another curved line going in the same direction down here, just connecting those two circles together. Now you can see that's a pretty good horse shape. That's actually pretty close to the shape of a real horse in real life. And then if you want, you can go ahead and erase the inside shapes of those circles. And now I have a nice unicorn body shape to work with. So now that I have the body shape kind of blocked in, I have my body in there, I'm going to come back up to the head and I'm going to draw her mane. Now, a lot of times horses can have short manes, and you could absolutely maybe do a boy unicorn that uses his horn to fight dragons. Maybe he's a little rough and tumble, and he could have kind of a spiky short mane, like a lot of horses or even a zebra would have. But I want my unicorn to be a little bit more delicate, so I'm going to give her a nice long flowing mane. And one way that I like to do that is just by drawing kind of curved, curly, spirally lines. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to draw a line coming down, and I'm going to curl it into a spiral. Then I can have another line come down and curl it into a spiral going the other way. And I can follow that all the way down, maybe to about halfway down this circle. I'm just going to draw little curved lines and spiral them. Now every time I draw them, I'm actually going to erase the back of her neck here. Every time I draw them, I want to start at the top and work my way down. You don't want your spirals to be coming up, or it'll look like her hair is flowing in two different directions. So I'm just going to draw little curved lines with a spiral at the end, all the way down, about as long as I want her mane to be. It could be as long or as short as I want it, but I think this is pretty good. I have a nice curly, a nice beautiful mane here, and I'm going to leave it like that. And now that I've drawn her hair in, I can darken that other ear, but I'm not going to color in the inside of the ear. If this ear is facing this way towards us, I would imagine this ear is facing in the other direction, and I just wouldn't see that dark inside part. Now, if you want your mane to look a little hairier, you could absolutely draw some curved lines in between the spirals coming all the way down, or you could leave it the way you had it in the beginning. That's totally up to you. As an artist, you have to make those decisions on your own. I kind of like the way the little hairs look in mine, so I'm going to leave it like this. She's looking pretty good. Oop, actually, I'm going to give her one more curl up here. Much better. Now we can start on her legs, all the way down at the bottom. Now, horses have really strangely shaped legs. They actually bend in different directions than people's legs do. So when I draw my horse's front legs, I'm going to start with two curved lines right at the bottom of that circle. And I'm going to erase the bottom of that circle. Horses have very strong leg muscles, so I want to draw a nice beefy shoulder muscle here. And then I'm going to have two pretty straight lines coming down, angled backwards just a little bit, and then a little bump back here. Now that's actually her knee, because horses' knees bend in the other direction. Then I'm going to have two more straight lines coming down in the opposite direction. See how it bends backwards instead of forwards like our knees would do. And then I'm going to give her a little bump at the bottom. Now that's not actually the bottom of her foot. Horses have hooves at the bottom, and a hoof is really just a kind of a trapezoid, a rhombus shape down here at the bottom. It has four sides. It's not quite even like the sides of a square or a rectangle, and I'm going to color that in. So now she has one nice front paw here, one nice hoof. Now her other leg, I'm going to have raised up in the air a little bit. I want it to look like maybe she's walking or maybe just standing in a fancy way. So instead of coming straight down like this leg, I'm going to have two fairly straight lines coming out in this direction. And then I'm going to draw that knee. And then I'm going to bend her leg back this way with two more straight lines. And the bottom of her foot is actually going to bend back one more time, and then I'll give her that little heel shape down at the bottom. And now it kind of looks like she's prancing or trotting or maybe just showing off a little bit. Now I can move to the back leg. Now the back legs of horses are also very strong, and they have this huge back leg muscle, this thigh muscle back here. I think sometimes it's referred to as the haunches of the horse. So I'm going to draw just a big curved line, almost where my first circle was before I erased it. And then the back of the circle here is going to have a little curve to it. Just like this front leg, her knee is actually going to be bumped back here. And then it's going to come back towards the front of the horse with two straightish lines. It's kind of a tricky shape. If you can see, this almost looks like a number 2 here. And then those two straight lines coming down. And then I'll close that off and color in that little hoof. Now the front leg is a little tricky, but the back leg is going to be a little easier. Because all I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of copy this bottom shape a little bit to the right, a little bit off to the side. So I'm going to copy this same line. I'm not going to be able to see all of that curve because it's on the other side of my unicorn. But I'm going to come down. Here's that back knee, that same bump. Those same two straight lines coming down. But I'm going to stop the foot a little higher up, and that's going to make it look like that leg is back a little bit. So that when I color in my hoof, it looks a little further away. Now, one thing I like to do to make this leg look like it's behind the body is I like to just shade in the top of that leg just a little bit, and that helps it look like it's on the other side of the horse, or I'm sorry, of the unicorn. You can do the same thing with this front leg, give it a little bit of shade here, and that's looking pretty good. Now, she is missing one thing. She's missing her tail. And I'm actually going to copy this same pattern that I used on her mane with the tail. So I'm going to start right here on her rump, and I'm going to draw a curved line with a spiral, and a curved line with a spiral. And I'm going to keep doing that. I just need to make sure all of those curves and spirals are kind of starting out from the same place. And I can make her tail as big or as small as I want it to be. I think that's going to look pretty good. And it's a pretty solid unicorn. She looks great. Now, as always, you could stop here. You could just have a nice unicorn picture. Or maybe you could draw a setting for this. Now, unicorns are imaginary fantasy creatures. They're not really real. So I'm going to draw a nice outside scene of maybe a place that's not a real place. So the first thing I'm going to draw is that line all the way across. That's called the horizon line. That's where the ground and the sky are separated. Now when I'm drawing that line across my paper, once it touches my unicorn, I'm going to pretend to draw that line until I get out of the unicorn's body, and then I'll continue it on the other side. That'll help that line look like it's behind her body. Now, if she was outside, I could draw a forest, maybe a magical forest. She could be in the grassland. She could be in a field. She could be trotting down the street in your neighborhood. But I think I want to put her in kind of a magical forest. And a lot of times when I read fantasy books or if I play fantasy video games, sometimes the artists in those books, instead of doing trees, have giant mushrooms. So I'm going to draw some mushroom shapes. I'm going to start with kind of a semicircle. It's like half of a circle with a little square or a rectangle underneath it. Then I can cover the top of that mushroom shape with some circles. Now, that's a pretty big mushroom compared to the size of real mushrooms, but I want these to be substitutes for trees. So I'm actually going to draw another one coming up in my background here, that semicircle, kind of a curved rectangle shape under it, and then we'll cover this mushroom with circles. Now if I want to get really crazy, I could have an even bigger mushroom growing up from all the way down here. Now if I had a mushroom that was this big, I might even be able to see underneath it a little bit. I'm not sure if you've ever looked at the underside of a mushroom, but under this big dome, this semicircle shape, mushrooms actually have all of these little lines coming out from the middle, from that stalk, in a circular pattern all the way around the bottom of the mushroom. So I can do that with this big giant mushroom back here. And now it kind of looks like my unicorn's about to walk into a mushroom forest. Now I could add things like a rainbow. Is always fun to color. I could have a rainbow just repeating a pattern of curved lines coming down in my sky back here. You could add anything else to your picture you want to add. She could have a rider on her back. I could have grass on the ground. There could be fairies flying around. Or you could put her in a realistic setting. You could put her trotting down a city street, or maybe at a park or a playground. You could even draw yourself riding on her back. Whatever you do end up doing with your unicorn, if you're a Henry Johnson Charter School scholar, snap a picture of it, send it to me on Class Dojo, and I'll add your picture to one of my videos later on in the week. Or if you have a suggestion for something for me to draw next time, put it in the comments below. Let me know what you'd like to learn how to draw, and I'll try to add it to my list of things to draw over the next couple of days. As always, stay safe, wash your hands, and I'll see you next time.